introduction, my name is Liz O'Mahony. I work for Musgrave Group. My base is in Cork, and I look after the graduate programme on behalf of Musgrave in all of our divisions and all of our locations. So I've kind of just put together, I suppose, today on what my recommendations were to be to get hired in retail, but I suppose with a particular focus to Musgrave, because I can't exactly speak for all companies. But I've given a general overview and then kind of a more focused overview, so what we're looking for. So my agenda for today is really to give you a company overview, to focus more generally than just in general application process and how you get hired in terms of a CV, an online application, assessment centres, interviews, our Musgrave graduate roles, what we look for in our graduates, and our application and recruitment process. And if you have any questions then at the end, I'd be happy to take them. So Musgrave, I'm not too sure, like some of you might be familiar with our brands such as SuperValu or Centra or Superquin. Others might just know the name Musgrave and don't really know exactly what we do. So really we're a partner to entrepreneurial retailers. I suppose the focus in this is that basically we supply the retailers and the retailers then make their own unique brand out of their store. So the importance of a partnership, our business began with a partnership, and our company values really determine what everything we do in terms of our partnership, our consumers, our retailers, and our values are long-term stable relationships, not being greedy, honesty, working hard, and achievement. And these are really, they come through in everything we do on a daily basis, no matter what function that you work in, whether you're a graduate, you're working on the floor, or you're a director or CEO level. Okay, so our structure. For those of you that don't know, I'm going to just start on the top right-hand corner. So we've got Musgrave Retail Partners Ireland, and our brands under that are SuperValu and Centra. Next to the right, we've got Musgrave Operating Partners Ireland, which is Superquin. So Musgrave acquired Superquin last year. Many of you would probably be familiar with Superquin from a Dublin perspective, and we recently did a big refurbishment in our Blackrock store. Then we have Musgrave Wholesale Partners, which is based out in Ballymun, where we have Musgrave Marketplace, Musgrave Food Services and Daybreak. Our cash and carry businesses then are basically focused all over the country. Then we have Musgrave España, which covers the brands of SuperValu, Dialsor Cash and Carry and Dialpri. These are mainly focused in southeast Spain. And moving back up to the left, we've got Musgrave Retail Partners GB. Our brands there are Budgeons and Londis. And finally, we have Musgrave Retail Partners Northern Ireland, which are SuperValu, Centra and Mace. Okay. So investing for the future, I suppose Superquin will be one of the biggest flagship stores we have in Dublin. There's 24 stores, 19 supermarkets, and basically we're doing a lot of refurbishment and major investment in Ireland at the moment. So now just to give you more of a general census of securing a job in the retail industry. Firstly, what I've begun to focus on is your CV. I'm sure all of you at some stage will be popping into the careers office or downstairs to the CV advisors. So really what the purpose of a CV, when you think about it, when you're applying into any company, the purpose of a CV is to provide an employer with a high-level overview of your educational background, your work experience, and your other relevant and interest and achievements. If you don't put all of these details in, like as an employer, I'm not going to know what your achievements are, what you've achieved to date, where you've worked. I can't read minds, I'd love to say that I do. So it's very important that all CVs should contain personal details, education, work experience, interests and activities, achievements, and reference such as contact details. You'll find that achievements become a big eye-opener for organisations. You know, it's great to have a focus on your education and work experience, and these are really, I suppose, an 80% of what an organisation will focus on. But those extracurricular activities and achievements throughout all of your life really, I suppose starting from secondary school upwards, it's important to mention those. It kind of shows that there's a person in you outside of your general working day. Online application forms, I suppose our online application form for our graduate programme, we would have changed it quite a lot over the years. I suppose in the past it would have been just email your CV and you send an email with it, a cover letter. Online application forms have become really more popular with organisations now, and I suppose they have everything online. You can edit it when you want to, like you could apply for something on the first date of the month, amend it 10 times if you wish, and then submit it. Generally what we do look for, or most organisations would look for, is your personal details, your educational details, your work experience to date. Include all of your work experience. Like for example, you might have worked in a flower shop when you were in secondary school for Mother's Day. Those things matter. It shows you can interact with people and you're very adaptable in terms of the different organisations that you can work for. and why you wish to apply for the organisation for that job role. This is essential. This is really you selling yourself. You could have, let's say, 10 people applying for the one role. That one person that really focuses on that question, that would have a genuine interest in business, a real passion for retail. So sell yourselves in that aspect. You know, it's really about getting yourself across as an individual, and everyone has their own individuality. So what employers want from the online application forms: do you meet the criteria of the role? Do you have the specific education, the work experience, the suitability? Do you match the company values? It's one thing to always look for when you're applying to an organisation. Company values are a big thing to the company, and they're really what they work by on a daily basis. And I suppose, what makes you the standout candidate? Think of your application as a sales pitch. Most application forms will ask you one of the following questions: why you're interested in the role, and what makes you want to work for X as a company. Do your research in the company and make sure that you've really done a background knowledge for it. It's important to sell your skills and your interests and achievements. My tips on online applications: always read each question carefully. While you may think they're asking for something, they might be asking for something else. Not all application forms contain a spell check. Always complete, in particular, your focus on why you're looking to apply to that organisation, why you're looking to go for that job. Attach a CV then if required. Ensure that all of your contact details are up to date. So if you change address, phone number, email address, always make sure they're up to date. Always save or print a copy of your application and bring to an interview with you if you're requested to go to interview. And answer each question as required and elaborate where possible. So in terms of interview preparation, so you've done the application, they obviously really liked you as a company and they've invited you for interview. The preparation that I would advise you to do is to read up on the employer's website. All of the websites are so different. Some are really with the times, some are not so with the times. So make sure to do different things. Check up like the organisation members, the employees, and the likes of LinkedIn. See what kind of backgrounds they've come from. Check out their profiles. See the amount of people they've hired in the past. Research the employer, their brands, their products, their company turnover, annual results. For example, if I had somebody coming into an interview and they didn't know that some of our brands were SuperValu, Centra, it's not going to look very well. Search for the employer in social networking sites, as I mentioned. Get to know the names within the company and speak to past employees if applicable. If your neighbour down the road knows somebody that works in such organisation, speak to them and see what it's like to work for that organisation. And keep up to date with industry trends and news. So you'll find even Twitter now has a lot of updates just on, let's say, the retail industry or any other industry. Kind of become familiar with different things. You'll see a lot of magazines around or different websites as well. So interviews themselves, candidates, I suppose you, should also always review your application and familiarise yourselves with your work experience. You know, like you're invited based on that application form or that CV. Make sure you have the knowledge correctly. There's nothing worse than somebody going in saying they finished their degree in 2009, whereas they actually finished in 2010, but it was an error. And it just puts everything into a different flow. So make sure that you've known all of your dates of what you finished and what is in the application form. Dress appropriately. I wouldn't advise anybody to go in a pair of surf shorts and a t-shirt. Be polite and attentive. Good eye contact is always a good thing. Communicate with the interviewers, you know, be interested in the company, ask questions, elaborate where possible on all of your answers. Have your research done. Organisations like to know that people want to work for that organisation. Think of it as a selling process. An organisation wants to hire someone, you want a job, it's a perfect match. So it's really about you selling yourself and getting yourself across to that employer. And have relevant questions then prepared to ask at interview. This is really critical. This is the time that you're going to get to ask the questions that you want to ask, be it the working hours, is it possible for you to move into different functions when you go into that organisation. Research those questions and research different questions that you might have about your career focus. One thing to note, always ask about development. You know, you're going to look really eager if it's a case of that you want to progress in your career. Remember those things. Assessment centres, pretty daunting. I would imagine that you all find them pretty daunting. Basically, I suppose a lot of organisations, in particular for graduate roles, now run assessment centres. Okay, within that you'd have a group discussion, you'd have an individual exercise, you could have a group presentation, you could have an individual presentation, and you'd have an interview. What people are generally looking for is that you're a team player, that you're able to, I suppose, speak about certain aspects of the business. Like, for example, they might say to you, okay, we want you to put your article, we're giving you 3 articles, why do you think this should be number 1? The person, I suppose, that's really going to focus in on getting everyone involved in the article, and really they have a passion for it, but they're bringing in teamwork, You know, think about those kind of things before you go in. Those assessment centres, it's about being yourself as well. Like, you're a person and you will be suited to a certain organisation, so make sure to do your research on them. I'd advise you maybe to do a little research in the internet. There's different books. I think there's a book on how to succeed at assessment centres. Research those kind of things. Okay, so my assessment centre tips and preparation. Read up on assessment centre literature. There are different books available. Research sample psychometric tests online and complete test applications where possible. There are a number of different websites that would run these that if you search in Google, they'll come up. And the tips: arrive early. Guys, I'm telling you, we have a number of assessment centres every year for graduates. The amount of people that get flustered when they come in, your day doesn't start well when you get flustered. Make sure you're there on time, you're familiar with the rooms, you're familiar with the people, with the format of the interview, with the assessment centres that day. They're all important tips. And listen carefully to the instructions provided with you. There'll be a number of people there, there'll be a number of assessors, there'll be a number of candidates. You know, make sure that you listen to everything. And the most important thing really for me is be yourself. Okay, so I've just put in a few notes just about the Musgrave graduate programme and more so what we look for. The Musgrave graduate programme, a bit of background detail. It's embedded in the business with over a decade. We have a number of positions to take on for 2013, and these are in the areas of supply chain, finance, marketing and trading. Our graduates rotate in the business. So year one, you'll be based in locations within the following areas. So Cork, Dublin, Belfast or London. And in year two for your rotation, you'll rotate to another location again. So flexibility is required. The programme is 2 years in duration, and once the programme is finished, you will be a staff member within the business. And applying to Musgrave, we're committed to our values. They support our business and drive its continuing success. Our values are long-term stable relationships, not being greedy, honesty, working hard and achievement. We want people that can really show these values and really work to these values on a daily basis. So there are things to consider when you're applying for any sort of a job. Our application process, we're looking for degree qualified 2-1, master's welcome, not necessary by any means. We're looking at all academic backgrounds are considered. However, you would really want to have a passion for food and retail. If you don't have that, then I don't really know if you're going to be suited to that type of environment. It's very fast-paced, it's so exciting, like no day is the same. Familiarise yourself with brands, familiarise yourselves with different, I suppose, areas of the business, no matter who you're applying to. So we have an online application form. Our application process is open at the moment. The first round is online testing, so behavioural, numerical, verbal, aptitude test. Following on from that, if you're successful, there's a video interview. And if you're successful at that stage, you'll then move to our assessment centres, which will run the final week of November. So the selection process and just a calendar of these events. So we have the online application, the assessment, the video interview, the assessment centre itself. Offers then will be made before Christmas. Okay, all of this is available on the website as well. So hints and tips, I suppose, do your research, go to our stores, look at the store from an employer's perspective, customer's perspective, a supplier's perspective, an employee's perspective. Attend seminars, network, become commercially aware. Okay, it's great to be able to be really studious, really good at work. You need to become commercially aware. You need to be aware of business. You need to be aware of, you know, people taking on people acquiring other companies, knowing what's going on in retail, know the products, know the brands, use your communication skills and display determination. You know, you will get what you want, but it mightn't always be the first time. You know, if you're determined enough, you'll get there. So this is our graduate programme, our queries. We have a graduate.info@musgrave.ie email address that we take any queries at. Our application process is open now until the 26th of October, and you can apply online at www.musgravegraduates.ie. We have our Facebook page, Twitter, LinkedIn there as well. Okay.